Hey everybody. In class we've been working a lot on solving equations. Today we're going to look at how we can use these equations to represent word problems and then solve them to find the answer. In our first example here, Keith received $89 for his birthday. He went to a sporting goods store and bought a baseball glove, baseball, and bat. He had $10 left over. How much did he spend on the baseball gear? When we're dealing with a word problem or a real-life situation, we want to make sure we underline the question. How much did he spend on his baseball gear? That's what we're looking for. And we can represent that amount that we don't know with a variable. We can say C equals the cost of the gear. Okay, C equals the cost. Now, I want to make sure I put a box around the numbers that are going to be important for me solving this problem. I know that he had $89 for his birthday. I'm going to put a box around $89. That's how much he got for his birthday. And he had $10 left over. Okay? Now, we don't really need to know that he went to the sporting goods store. I'm going to cross out that information. And it doesn't really matter exactly what he bought. So we can eliminate that information too. Okay? I know he had $89 for his birthday. He had $10 left over. How much did he spend on the gear? Now that we have our important information, we can write an equation to represent the situation. If we know that he had $10 left over, and I know that he spent C dollars on the gear, we know that these two numbers added together have to equal the amount that he started with, $89. He had $89 total. He had 10 left at the end, and he spent C on the gear. Now, to solve this equation, I can rearrange these two terms. I can write it as C plus 10 equals 89. And now I can use my inverse operation to solve for C. Since this says plus 10, I'm going to subtract 10 from both sides. And I get C equals 79. So we know that he spent $79 on the gear. Let's try another example. There are 12 rose bushes currently in the park. Park workers will plant more rose bushes today. When the workers are finished, there will be 89 rose bushes in the park. How many rose bushes do the workers plant today? As usual, we're going to start by underlining what we're looking for. How many rose bushes do the workers plant today? And we're going to want to use a variable to represent that number that we don't know. So we can write R equals the rose bushes that were planted today. Okay? These aren't all the rose bushes, just the ones that were planted today. Now, we know that there were 12 rose bushes currently in the park, and we know that the park workers will plant more rose bushes today. We also know that when they're finished, there will be 89 rose bushes in the park. So we put a box around those two numbers that we need, and now we can write our equation. I know that we start with 12 rose bushes, and we're adding our more rose bushes today. That's the amount that's being planted. And that's going to equal the total number of rose bushes in the park when they're finished, which is 89. Now, to solve this equation, just like we did with the last problem, I'm going to rearrange it, use my commutative property of addition, so that I have my variable in front, and now I see that it's R plus 12. I'm going to subtract 12 from both sides, and I'm going to get R equals, that's going to give me 7 and 7. R equals 77. So 77 rose bushes were planted today. Our next example is going to look at space exploration. The Apollo 11 mission lasted about 195.5 hours. The flight from Earth to the Moon lasted about 103 hours, and the flight from the Moon back to Earth lasted about 71 hours. About how many hours did the Apollo 11 astronauts spend on the Moon? As always, we're going to underline the information that we're looking for. About how many hours did they spend on the moon? So I'm going to use H here to represent the unknown amount, and that is hours on the moon. How many hours did they actually spend on the moon? Now, I know that my total length for the trip was 195.5 hours. The flight from Earth to the moon was 103 hours. And the moon back to Earth was 71 hours. So we're putting a box around all of the important numbers. Now, since I know that the total was 195.5, I'm going to put equals 195.5 because I know that the amount that they went from the Earth to the moon plus the amount they went from the moon back to the Earth plus the amount they actually spent on the moon is going to add up to this number, this bigger number. Now, I know if we take the time they went from the Earth to the moon, that's 103 hours, and then we add the amount of time they actually spent on the moon, and then we add the amount of time they spent coming back, we should get that total. Now, I'm going to rearrange my terms here. I'm going to put my h first, my variable first, plus 103 plus 71. We can do this any time where all we have is addition. We can rearrange the terms. Now, I can combine like terms. I'm going to draw my line here down the middle. I can combine like terms, 103 plus 71. It's going to give me h plus 174 equals 195.5. And now all I have to do to solve this equation is subtract 174 minus 174, and I can put 0.0 there. So it's going to give me 0 over here. I have h equals 5 minus 0 is 5. Decimal point comes straight down. 5 minus 4 is 1. 9 minus 7 is 2. 1 minus 1 is 0. So h, the amount of time they actually spent on the moon, was 21.5 hours. Alright, here's our final example. You spent a total of $50 for streamers, balloons, and flowers. You spent $12.50 on streamers and $15 on balloons. Write and solve an equation to find out how much you spent on flowers. So we're looking for how much you spent on flowers. Let's use F for that. F equals cost of flowers. Okay? Now I'm going to put a box around the important numbers. We got $50. That's for the streamers, balloons, and flowers. So that's the total. And we know we spent $12.50 on streamers and $15 on balloons. We don't know how much we spent on flowers. That's why we're using F for the variable. So to set up my equation, I'm going to set it equal to $50 because that's the total. That's the big number. I know that if I take my $12.50 for streamers and I add my $15 for balloons and I add the cost of the flowers to that, it should equal the total of $50. So I can combine like terms here. I have my two like terms right next to each other. $12.50 plus 15 gives me 27.50 plus F equals 50. I'm going to rearrange this so I have my variable out front. Plus 27.50 equals 50. And then I'm going to subtract 27.50 from both sides of my equal sign. So that gives me 0 over here. I have F equals, I'm going to put 50.00, and I'm going to subtract 0 minus 0 is 0. I have to borrow here, and in order to do that I have to borrow for this 0. That makes it 10 if I change that to 4. And then I'm going to borrow from here. We're going to make that 9 because I'm going to take 1 for right here. 10 minus 5 is 5. Decimal comes straight down in subtraction. 9 minus 7 is 2. 4 minus 2 is 2. So F equals $22.50, which is the amount spent on flowers.